All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first Strive webinar series on retail relief. Our goal at Retail Alliance is to have a couple of these each week to keep everybody informed and educated during this difficult time. Our next one is actually Thursday at 9:30 a.m. and it'll be on emergency business planning. With that said, though, let's get into it. I'd like to welcome Lisa Smith, our presenter today. She is a mind hack coach and trainer, and Lisa's here to talk to us about resiliency and decision making in uncertain times. Lisa, would you like to take it away?
Hi, good morning. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us this morning, and I appreciate your willingness to learn some things to help you to manage whatever challenges you're going through right now in this very interesting time. So I want to start off. Let's see. Just sharing a little bit about me and my own story, and kind of how I'm in this boat with all of you, as well as a small business owner. I've been running my own practice full time as a self-employed individual for 13 years. Although I've been doing the work that I've been doing for 24, and I had a part-time home office, seeing clients here and there while I worked for a national hypnosis franchise called Positive Changes. And I worked for them for about 8 years when suddenly I was laid off. We had 2 weeks notice that the franchise, at least in our area, was going to be closing. And it was needless to say, it was a really scary and challenging time for me. I had never been unemployed and I had never worked for myself. And I was at a crossroads, and I had to decide, what I was going to do. Was I going to try to go back into my former career of marketing, which I'd been out of for about 10 years, or was I going to try to convert my part-time home office into a full-time practice? I also had some other things going on at the same period of time. So within 2 weeks, these major life changes and stressors occurred for me. And so that was that I got laid off. I decided to become self-employed and turn my part-time practice into a full-time practice and learn how to get more of my own clients pretty quickly to be able to support myself because I'm single. And I also was turning 40 at the time, which was a challenging milestone for me because of I wasn't really feeling like where I wanted to be at that stage of my life. And I also had a very serious 5-year relationship that suddenly came to an end as well. So 4 major life stresses all happening at one time. And needless to say, again, it was very challenging for me. So I had to quickly regroup and had to pull all my resources to try to figure out how I was going to make this work, how I was going to support myself, be able to bring enough money in to be able to continue to survive. And here I am 13 and a half years later in my business, and continuing to grow every year, continuing to deal with all the ups and downs and the challenges that come with being a business owner. Also, in the environment that we're in right now, I'm having to learn how to pivot my business, my company, and the ways that I'm marketing and the groups that I'm going after, so that I can continue to bring in the clients. So what I'm going to be talking about today and sharing with you are all things that I've been having to go through myself. They're all things that, I'm challenged with, on a daily basis. Some days are more challenging than others, but everything that's bringing me through this and everything that's creating the ideas and the opportunities that I'm taking action on that are starting to produce results are the things that I'm going to be teaching you today. And obviously I can't cover everything that I want to cover today. I wanted to cover the basics with you, and I am going to be having a fuller Q&A on Thursday. So I'll talk about that on Thursday morning. I'll be having another Zoom. So any unanswered questions from today, or if you want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things I'm going to share today, and some of the resources, some of the tactics that you can use that I use as well, then you'll have more of an opportunity to do that on the call on Thursday. But I do want to take some questions today, and I want to make this interactive. So there's going to be points where I'm going to be, asking you to write some things in the chat box. So hopefully everybody knows how to use the chat box. It's down at the bottom. It will say chat with a little bubble, and you just click on that, and something should show up on the right where you can type in. Now, you have the opportunity where it says to, it should say everyone, but there's a little drop down arrow. If you click on that, you can type a private message to anybody who's on the call today. You can find their name there, click there and type, and it'll just go to them. Or if you want to chat to me, type something in there, make sure that you're in the everyone box. Okay, so I'm going to get started with my screen share here. And, all right, give me a second. There we go. Okay, give me a chat in the, or say something in the chat box if you can see the full screen now of my slides, so that I know that we're all set with that. And okay, I lost the chat box. So Joey, can you let me know, because I can't see the chat box right now while I'm in slide view. You can turn on your mic and let me know if you can see the slides.
Okay. Yes, so we can see the slides, and you should be able to click the chat box on the very bottom. Oh, okay. If there's any questions, I'll make sure to let you know.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. I'm still trying to see if I can get chat to show at the same time where I have the slides. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the title of our talk today is Resiliency and Decision Making in Uncertain Times, How to Move from Fear to Hope to Freedom. And I'm going to be teaching you ways to pivot your thinking so that you can begin to see the opportunities that are there to help you to rescue what seems to be going haywire in your business right now. One of my favorite authors, he wrote several books, but his most famous one, and his first one, was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, which is the book that more millionaires credit for their fortunes than any other. And here are some great quotes that he has that are relevant to what I'm going to be covering today. Through every adversity, every failure, every heartache, there's the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So in this adversity, what we want to look at today is that there is some benefit that's equal or greater to the adversity that you're experiencing. That opportunities often come in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. So often what we're seeing as a negative or a misfortune is really presenting an opportunity for us. And we need to be able to shift how we're looking at it in order to see the opportunity instead of the obstacle. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things we are the masters of our fate because we have the power to control our thoughts. We have the power to control our thoughts. And that's where our power lies. That's where we want to reclaim our power. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Because all the other strategies, all the things that you might know or could learn from this moment forward to help you are not going to help you if you stay stuck and you don't take action because of fear. So we're going to talk about how fear stops us from not only seeing opportunities, but also acting on the opportunities that present themselves when they come up. So I want to just lay a little bit of groundwork here for changing your thinking so that you can see the opportunities in every challenge, even a challenge as extreme as a pandemic and the residual effects of that, of having to shut down or greatly minimize the ability of your business to operate. So first of all, I want to make sure that we're all starting with a beginner's mind. Right? So open up your mind to learning new ways of looking at things and new ways of doing things. There's a saying that the mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. Okay, so I want you to people to just type in the chat box a yes if you're open to having a beginner's mind here, and resist any ways that you're shutting down and saying, you know, I know this, or this doesn't apply to me. Yes, okay, so everybody wanting to have a beginner's mind, very open and receptive. Anytime that you hear your brain giving you a thought such as this doesn't apply to me, or this can't work for me, stop and shift it and ask yourself instead, how does this apply to me? Or how can this apply to me? How can I make this work for me? Okay. So begin to shift the messages that you're telling yourself. So if everybody's open to that, just say yes in the chat box. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to be talking today in using some language that's based on what I call universal law or principle, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. We really need to be able to tap into a sense of faith. Okay? Now, faith could be, I mean, the definition of faith is trusting in something without evidence, trusting in something or someone without evidence that it's real or true. And the acceptance of some kind of higher force, that this world that we're living in is not chaotic, it's not unstructured, it's not unordered, it's not random, that there is a pattern to things, there is a structure and a purpose to everything. And so type in the chat box if you have some sense of faith that we live in an orderly universe or world, or that you have some faith in a higher power, whatever you choose to call it, God, the universe, spirit, whatever. So go ahead and tap or type in the chat box a yes for that. Not enough. Okay, great for sharing that. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to use what I'm sharing with you today to begin to tap into that and begin to look for evidence in the world around it, and especially as you start to utilize some of the practices that I teach you today, building up your faith by seeing how using these tools is creating opportunity for you, is creating ideas for you, is creating openings for you, and that you keep moving towards those and finding the benefit of doing that. Okay, So keep moving to faith. And what I'm going to be talking about today is going to be tapping more into this higher principle of order. All right. I also want you to accept and agree with me some basic truths. First is about the stress response. So most people have heard about the stress response, what often is termed the fight or flight system. And this is the system that the human brain and actually all uh, all sentient beings operate from. And it's a survival mechanism that's built into the brain and the nervous system of a living being. So there's actually 4 F's to the stress response. Most people know about the fight or flight, but the 2 other F's are freeze and faint. So fainting is when the brain, the nervous system gets so overloaded that it just shuts down and we actually go unconscious. So these 4 different responses are what we are consciously as well as unconsciously capable of. But most of the time it goes to an unconscious level. So we want to begin to recognize that we have the ability to take over the brain and this automatic response system that gets triggered anytime that we sense some kind of threat. And in our current world, the threat is usually something that's made up. It's not as often as it was for our ancestors, where there's an actual physical threat to us, like a predator right there in front of us about to attack, like a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, most of the time it's us perceiving something in the outside world as a threat that then activates the system and activates one of these 4 responses. Either fight off, where we attack, so we usually are verbally attacking the person or the situation that seems to be presenting a threat to us. So that's the fight. So anger, verbal attack, etc. And then there's flight, which is just ignoring it, walking away from it, sticking our head in the sand, distracting away from it, going off and doing something else to ignore it and not address it. So that's that flight response that's more common now than, when we have an actual predator that we have to physically try to run away from to get to safety. And then we've got the freeze, which the freeze response happens in nature as another way to protect ourselves, because if we can stay really still, then oftentimes the predator isn't able to see us. And there are some animals that actually cannot detect except by movement, right? For example, like bats. If you saw Jurassic Park, there was one of those dinosaurs that couldn't detect you unless they saw movement. So the freeze response is another instinctual response that can protect us, because if we can stay really still, then oftentimes the predator will not see us and will go away. But in this modern time, what the freeze response is either avoidance or procrastination. So we just we procrastinate on taking any action, on moving. It's also feeling stuck. So mentally, we go into freeze mode, where we feel like we can't think, we can't come up with ideas, we are stuck. Okay, so the fight, flight, freeze, faint response, but one of these first 3 responses is usually one of the ways that we're going to respond to what we're perceiving from the outside world, not a real predator, but what we're perceiving as some kind of threat. So if you could type in the chat box if you're with me and understand about the stress response, and you agree that that's the system, a mechanism that happens. Okay, and you've experienced that. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on. The law of polarity. So the law of polarity states, and there's seven universal laws, and the law of polarity is one of them. So the law of polarity states that for everything in the world, there is an opposite equivalent. So I want you to really, really think about this. And I'll go into it more once we get into this further into the slides. But everything has an equal and opposite thing. You cannot have an up without a down. You cannot have an in without an out. You cannot have a night without a day, light without dark. We live in a universe of dichotomy. Everything is a whole, and nothing shows up in halves, right? You don't see a half a dog running down the street, right? You don't see a half a person. There's fine lines of edges of beginning and end. Right? The beginning of something, the end of something. I think the only exception possibly right now is we can't even comprehend the end of the universe. But ultimately, everything sort of is a circle, and meets each other. So I'm holding a pen right now, okay, and there isn't half a pen here. You've got one side of the pen, you've got the other side of the pen. This pen is whole. So for everything that exists, there is an opposite of it, and it is equal. So it's this big, or it's this big, or it's this big. But if you're looking at the middle, there is an equal amount to this side, there's an equal amount to this side. Okay? So again, the law of polarity is there's a difference between two extremes. There are degrees of difference between the extremes or the poles. Nothing exists in halves. Everything is whole and complete. Everything in the universe, there is equal. It's equal and opposite. And therefore, there is no lack without plenty, and no problem without a solution. So can I get a yes, an understanding, and an acceptance of that idea, the law of polarity? Excellent. I love the thumbs up. Okay, and then finally, the idea about frequencies and different frequencies, because there is a different resonance to different things in our environment, in our universe. And we can think about frequencies in one way as like radio waves. So right now there's all these radio waves, all these frequency waves going on around us. We can't see them, right? We can't reach out and touch them. We can't see them with our eyes, but they are there. And they've always been there. And they were there before they were even discovered. So it's not like they suddenly just appeared, showed up one day. It was that somebody was able to conceive of them and find some way to make them tangible, or to harness them and utilize them. And that there's all different kinds of frequencies, and there are different ways that tune into different frequencies, just like with the radio dial. If we tune into 94.9, we're going to tune into that frequency wave, and we're going to, through the radio as the receiver and the projector of that wave, we're going to hear something as a result of that. So these sound waves have the tuner and the interpreter, where we can then experience the wave in some particular way, for example, hearing it. Okay, we can't see it, but it's there. It's always been there, even before it was discovered, and until we had the ability to recognize and perceive that there was something called a sound wave or frequency, and then to find some way to make it tangible, to bring it into physical form, it was still there. And there are many things that we're discovering all the time that were always there, but we didn't have the comprehension for it, or we didn't have the tools to be able to make it tangible and provable. Okay, so if I can get a yes on that final acceptance of truth, that there are frequencies all around us, different frequency levels, different ways to tune into different frequencies. Even though we didn't know about them before, they still existed. Okay. And that there's possibly other frequencies we still haven't recognized, we still haven't been able to discover, but are yet to be discovered. All right, great. So let's move on from this. This is building the groundwork for the things that I'm going to be sharing with you, because unless you have the acceptance of those things, your brain is going to delete out and come up with exceptions or obstacles to applying what I'm going to be sharing with you. So I want to share about the TIER formula. The TIER formula is the basis of all the work that I do as a mindset coach, working with the neuroscience of behavior, belief, of performance, and possibility. So TEAR are the letters that build up that make up the TIER formula. And that is our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, and our results. And so we actually look at the formula backwards. So first we look at the results that we're getting, right? What we're perceiving in our world as our reality. And when we're getting results that we're not happy with, then what we understand is that we have to do something different, because the actions that we're taking are creating the results that we're getting. Can I get a yes to that? It's the actions that we're taking that are producing the results that we're getting. Okay. And if we want different results, then we have to do something different, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results. So if we want different results, we have to do something different. We have to change the actions. And most people get that. But where we often get stuck is in changing the actions. We're not sure what to change or how to change it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Sometimes fear comes in, preventing us from taking the action that will help to produce a different result. And so that's what's driving the actions that we're taking, or even the actions that we're not taking. Our thoughts and our emotions are driving those actions. We can't have an action without a thought process and an emotion behind that thought. Emotions create energy. Emotions, if you think about the word emotion, it's energy, E, in motion. Without some kind of emotional driver of either pain or pleasure, inspiration or desperation, push or pull, no action occurs. So we can have a thought about doing something, but if it's not backed by some strong emotion, we usually don't take action on it. So there has to be some sense of pain about not taking the action that then drives us forward, creates momentum to take the action, to move us away from the pain, like our butt's in the fire, we got to get away from it. So we take a step forward away from the fire. But until we feel the fire strong enough where it hurts enough, and for some people that's going to be a different degree, then we're not going to have that emotion, we're not going to have that momentum to move us forward into action. Likewise, we can have something in front of us that is pulling us, something that's inspiring us to move towards it. And if that emotion about moving towards it or having that thing is strong enough, once it gets strong enough, it creates momentum. But our thoughts are also in play with our actions. And our thoughts are how we're perceiving something, how we're looking at something. And our thoughts are comprised mostly of our beliefs and our belief systems and the meaning that we're giving to things. Okay? So our thoughts and our emotions, we need to be able to learn how to recognize, control, and direct in an effective way to take an effective action to create an effective result. All right, so Our reality is how we're looking at our results, how we're looking at what we're getting, how we're looking at what's happening around us, our perception. So you see on the screen there, you know, the little kitten looking in the mirror, you know, what is he seeing? Is he seeing a little kitten or is he seeing a lion? Right? It's his perception. Are we looking at ourselves as weak or powerful? Some of you might have seen this other picture here, where you have to shift your perception to see two different things. Are you just seeing the old lady? Or are you seeing the beautiful young woman? Now, you might initially see just the old lady or just the beautiful woman, and until I introduced the thought that you could see something else there, you didn't see it. Till I told you look for it because it's there. I guarantee it's there. And if you look for it and you believe that it is there, you will see it. So how many of you are shifting and now being able to see the opposite, the other figure that you didn't see initially? Go ahead and type in the box. Okay. So if you're still having a hard time with that, the feather is the cap. The white could either be, well, let's look at here. The nose right here. I don't know if you can see my pointer going here on the screen. This is the nose of the hag, or it can be the chin of the beautiful lady, and this is her choker, or this is the mouth of the old lady. Okay, and this is maybe fur. And this is the cap at the back of the head of the old lady. This is her hair moving forward and her nose. And the young woman, this is her eyelash. This is her little nose. This is her chin, her ear, whereas the old lady, that's her eye. Okay? You got it now. Awesome, Jenny. Okay? So I told you there was something there, something else there that you weren't seeing. And if you haven't seen it yet, you know, trust us, it's there. And I'll have the slide deck for this later if you want to go back to look for it. But I said there's something else there. I want you to look for it, and I guarantee if you keep looking for it, yeah, so faith, right? Faith that it is there. Other people have seen it. So trust that other people are seeing it and that it is there. Sometimes we have to believe, we have to go to that faith in other people, their ability to see what we can't see. Okay? All right. Now, how this cycle perpetuates itself is the results that we're getting or the perceptions that we have are influencing the thoughts that we're having about our result. That creates an emotion, and then that emotion and thought, the emotion and the thought about that leads to some kind of action. The action leads to some kind of result, and then the result creates a thought about it. We have a thought about the result or what we're perceiving. And then that creates some kind of emotion, either good or bad, in that dichotomy that I talked about, you know, good or bad, though nothing really is good or bad or right or wrong. But we have an emotional response to it. And then that influences our action, which influences our results, that then influences and strengthens our thought about that, or changes it, strengthens the emotion or changes it. Okay. So we continue to have this perpetuation of this cycle, and our results continuing to strengthen and influence our thoughts until we learn how to change some things in this cycle if we keep getting the results that we're not happy with. All right, so other things that are coming into this process are our experiences, the meanings that we give, and the momentum that we're creating. So we have an experience with something. So first, when we're growing up, we begin to have experiences, and our mind, our young mind, begins to create thoughts about those experiences, and then creates meaning about those experiences. So I have this experience, and I begin to think about this experience and try to process it and come up with some ideas about it, or meanings about it, or rules about it. And whatever meaning I choose to give to that experience then influences the emotion that I have about it. Right? And when we're very young, we don't have much data to go on. When we get older, we're getting more and more data, and we can better assess the experiences that are happening. But sometimes we get locked in once we have an experience and we create a meaning about it and then some emotion about it, and then that creates some kind of action and we get a result with that, and then that that gets stored in our memories as an experience. What starts to happen is our past experiences, through the limited filter that we have based on our environment, based on who we have to teach us, what people are telling us of how to interpret the experiences that we have, or the interpretation that we get based on the response that we get from any actions that we're taking, is continually building our perceptions of our thought processes and the meanings that we're giving to things and the beliefs that we form about those. And again, those create our emotions, and the emotion creates an energy into action. The action creates some kind of result, and the result gets stored as another experience. And then that experience influences our thought. Usually we're going to, excuse me, we're going to continue to strengthen and perpetuate the past thoughts, because the brain is trying to create patterns of understanding in order for us to create an idea of rules to follow, so that we know what to do. We know what action to take that seems predictable based on our past experiences. Okay? So, all right. Is everybody getting that? I see here somebody's saying, give me an example. Okay. So I have an experience of I'm young, I'm not as coordinated yet in my body, and I reach across the dinner table and I accidentally hit the glass of milk that's on the table, and it falls over and it spills. Okay, and then based on any kind of response around us, we're going to determine how to respond to that. Now, sometimes it's instinctual. We just kind of naturally go towards, what happened, and we try to clean it up. But again, depending on how old we are when this happens, we might not have had that many experiences with it. Or again, we don't have the skills or the physical capability to act quickly to clean it up. But if mom or dad starts to yell or get upset in any way, then we are filtering that spilling the milk is bad. Maybe we even got hit, and that created some kind of pain, some emotion of pain. Or again, mom and dad were angry, and that created some sense of fear within us. And then some action of retreat, or the action of our parents, and then the results that we got from that. We got yelled at, we got hit, or maybe they said, it's okay, honey, it's all right. It's just milk. We can clean it up. It's not a problem. And then you've got a different meaning assigned to it. Spilling the milk in one instance is going to create the meaning, this is bad, or I'm bad, or somebody actually says you're a klutz, and you accept that meaning. When I make a mistake, or when I knock something over, that means I'm a klutz. Not just that, my body's not as coordinated right now. Or, I just, wasn't aware of spatiality in that moment, of the distance of my hand from the glass as I was reaching for something else. Okay. But that emotion anchors in the experience, and whatever actions we took or others took around us, what kind of results that created. And then that gets stored in our mind as an experience. And anytime anything similar happens, where we maybe make a mess, we knock something over, or we do something that upsets somebody else, that's a meaning that I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm a klutz, I'm a failure, etc. And that creates some kind of negative emotion, some action of retreat, or trying to be perfect and not make any mistakes again in the future, so that I get different results of not being yelled at or not being rejected. And then that gets stored in my mind as an experience. Okay. So has everybody got that? All right. So I want to move on from that. All right, so why does this matter? Why is everything that I'm covering up to this point matter? And how is this going to help you? Uncertainty triggers fear and shuts down effective decision making and our ability to create the results that we really want, the results that are more ideal for us. So again, looking at this circle a little bit more fully, our past experiences. Whenever anything new happens, or actually it doesn't have to be new, when anything happens in our life, we're engaging the law of cause and effect. So there's an effect that we're experiencing and a cause of that, and we're trying to figure that out. And especially when something new comes in that we have no prior experience for, such as a pandemic, and our business being told it has to shut down and it can't operate, or it's being greatly restricted in how it can operate, like for a restaurant only being able to do the takeout. There's no past experience for something like this, and it's so big. It's so to what we're seeing as an extreme. So the brain starts to go haywire, right? We're trying to find a pattern for what's going on. We're trying to find past experiences for what's going on, and we're having a hard time doing that. We have no past experience for something like this, so there's no predictability because there's no familiar pattern, or we're not seeing how this can be similar to something else that we have experienced in the past, because it seems too extreme, right? Or it seems too dissimilar. So there's a sense of unpredictability, and then the meaning that we give to that is there's uncertainty. Okay? So this is bad, this is unpredictable, this could be unsafe, there's no certainty. Right? There's no rules around this. And so we're all flailing about trying to figure out what to do here, right? And we're looking for meaning to create a sense of certainty. What oftentimes we're doing in this situation is we're creating a meaning that this is bad, or we're creating a meaning that this is unsafe, because that at least is giving us some data that we feel we can understand, and then we can go towards, how can I feel safe? How can I fight this off or run away from it? Some people are going into the third F. Right? But what happens with uncertainty is we go into the state of fear. Instead of having a sense of a predictable, positive, understandable meaning and certainty, and then getting the emotion of confidence and safety, now we're the opposite, right? We're going into fear. We don't have any sense of a trusted action, an action that we can take, that we can trust, because we've used it in the past and it gave us a result that we could expect, or that we were happy with. And then again, that got stored as now a new past experience that we can operate off of and create more of this sense of familiarity, predictability, and feeling more in a good flow with this cycle. But right now we're not experiencing that. We're not feeling confident. We're not feeling safe. We're going into the fear state. We don't know what to do. Right? So there's no trusted action. I don't know what to do, or I have no options. I have no options is the freeze mode. I don't have any options. And the freeze mode actually happens when we're in a state of stress. So I want you to think about this. When we're in a state of stress, what the brain is trying to do is go into preservation mode. And it's giving us an adrenaline dump. So it's releasing a lot of adrenaline into our body to prepare for the fight or the run. Now, again, sometimes it goes into freeze. But we're doing this adrenaline dump in the brain to help us to have the energy to fight or run. And this is the survival response. And one of the things that we've discovered happens when the fight or flight system gets activated is our field of vision narrows and our hearing decreases. So there was I think it was a John Hopkins study that that showed this. And I want you to think about how you've experienced this in the past. For example, when you're driving and there's a lot of traffic, or you have to really pay attention, and you're feeling like, maybe you've got the radio on, and you're like, I can't think, let me turn the radio off so I can see better, right? So I can focus better, right? So because your visual field is decreasing, and you've got that noise there, so if you turn that off, it can help to expand your visual field. Likewise, if you're confused and you have your eyes open and you're hearing something, sometimes you shut your eyes to tune more into what you're hearing, so that you can increase your sense of hearing. It seems like you're able to tune better into it when you shut down one of your processing systems. And again, if we think about it in predator terms, we don't want to be focusing on what's going on around us. We need to be singly focused right now on that predator and figuring out, what's the best course of action here. But it happens like that instantly in the brain. So this is the stress response. And so when you go into panic mode, you start to get oftentimes stuck. You can't see clearly. You can't see the opportunities. You start to actually get tunnel vision. It actually physically happens in the brain. Your brain narrows its field of awareness and vision. And then you go into limitation mode. Okay. And again, there's the unpredictability of the expected results. You don't know what results to expect from new actions. You're unsure what will happen, or go back into the fear with, what if I make a mistake, right? What if I make things worse than they already are if I take some action? Okay, so right now what's happening is we're trying to go to past experiences to try to figure out some predictability and certainty about how to act, but we don't have very much data to go on because this is very new. Okay, so can I get a yes, everybody understanding this? What's happening in this cycle? How you're shutting down the ability to see opportunities that are there. Okay. So we gotta get out of this stress response. So this is where we tune into the law of polarity, and where the law of polarity is going to be our savior. So the law of polarity, like I mentioned before, states that for every one thing, there is an equal and opposite thing. So if we're thinking about abundance, okay, and the poles of abundance, right? So the other side is this red line, okay, the opposite side of each of the poles. Okay, so over here on the left is where we're perceiving or experiencing lack or poverty. And then on the other side, there's also plenty and wealth. Because if there's lack or poverty, by the law of polarity, there absolutely has to be plenty and wealth. Everything is always present at the same time in the same place. And it's just a matter of where we're looking. And there's different levels or degrees to each of these poles, right? So a little bit of lack, a little bit more of lack, right? And then to the extremes. And there really is no end. But we'll say, okay, there's an extreme. To each end, there's an extreme. There's extreme wealth. We see extreme wealth out there, right? Billionaires. And then, we see extreme poverty as well. But both exist right here, right now, at the same time. And seemingly in different places, but it's not really in different places. So it's available to all of us. And again, there's an equal and opposite degree. So for this degree of sense of lack or poverty, there's an equal and opposite amount of plenty and wealth. Okay, and the further you go down here, the further we go up here. Right, so for here, there's the opposite equal here. For this level, there's an opposite and equal of here. For this level of lack or poverty, there's this level here. Okay, now let's look at this in a different way. The poles of our experiences or circumstances. For everything that we label as bad, there has to be something good in it as well. By the law of polarity, we cannot just have half of something. So if there's something that we're looking at and creating the meaning that this is bad, there also has to be a meaning that can allow us to see it as good. And to the same extreme that we're giving it for one polarity or the other. All right, same thing for problem or solution. Right, this is a really big problem, or this is, an extreme problem. But if there is that problem, there has to be the equal opposite, which is the solution. But it's oftentimes we get stuck on one side and we're not able to get over this line to see the other side. But here's the thing, it is as thin as the edge of this piece of paper, right? So we have one side of the paper, we have another side of the paper. Both sides exist simultaneously. I can't just get rid of this side of the paper. I might not see it right now. You might not see this other side, but it's still here. I'm seeing it. You're seeing this side, I'm seeing this side. They both exist at the same time. They both exist at the same time. All right? And there, it can be as thin as this. The leap from one side to the other can be as thin as this piece of paper. And you know what? I could slice this piece of paper even thinner, and there will still be both sides. Okay? It will never disappear. And if it does, then the opposite disappears too. Okay? So are you getting this? Equal and opposite, both exist at the same time. I can't see the other side of the paper. You can't see this side. I can see it. I can't see this side right now, but you can see it. It's there. And if I turn, I can see it. Sometimes I don't have to turn very much to start to see the other side. Okay. And the less in extreme we are, the easier it is to shift and begin to see the other side. This makes sense? Yes? Okay. So whatever situation you're in right now, there is a solution. Whatever you're experiencing right now as bad, there's an equal and opposite good. There are so many good things that are coming out of this quote unquote bad situation. And some people are only tuning into the bad, and some people are choosing to tune into the good. We've got less air pollution going on right now. We've got people staying home and talking with each other and playing games and communicating more. We're finding unity in our divisiveness in our country and even in the world, right? So it seems like the other people in other parts of the world are separate from us, but we're all in this together. Right? Everybody is experiencing this in some way. And so, it started in China, but look how it spread. That's showing you how intertwined, how interrelated we really are. And the ability or the idea of separateness is just an illusion. Okay? So, how can you begin to see the solutions or the choices that are currently unseen or hidden from you? Remind yourself first and foremost that whatever problem you have right now, however you're feeling stuck, there is a way out. There is some action that you can take. Thinking back to that circle again. What action can I take, right? But you're not going to see possibilities until you begin to change the lens by which you are viewing things. If you change if you're looking through the this is bad lens, then this is the way you're going to be going. Okay, you're going to be going to the left. You're going to go, fear is going to be taking over and it's dragging you down and further to these degrees. Okay, you're going into fear, you're going into blame, you're going into anger, what we call the lower energy frequencies, right? So if you can think about each of these lines as a frequency, each frequency represents a possibility. Okay, so you can either go down or you can go up. Fear will take you down every single time, unless and until you learn how to use fear as simply a signal. There's something I have to pay attention to right now. There's something I have to see right now in order for me to make a shift away from what I'm experiencing as the threat. Okay, the not what I want, the bad, the fantasy of what you're interpreting is going to happen. So the first thing you need to do is change the meaning. Nothing is bad or good. But if you're going to give a meaning to a situation, like it's raining out right now, the rain is neither bad nor good. You're creating an interpretation about the rain. You're giving the rain some meaning based on your own perceptions or circumstances, right? So if you're a farmer in a drought, your circumstance is, I want the rain. So when it rains, you're going to be giving it a good meaning and you're going to be creating a good feeling. You're going to be happy to see the rain. The person with an outdoor event planned is going to be seeing the rain, creating a totally different interpretation, totally different feeling. They're going to be looking at it something like, this means my event is ruined. And then they're going to be feeling angry, frustrated. Okay. And then it's, the actions that they take are going to be different. The rain is just the rain. It has no inherent meaning. Humans are constantly giving meaning to everything that happens. And that's what we have control over, to shift the meaning, right? So what else could it mean that it's raining out if you've got an outdoor event plan? Oh, well, it could mean that we could have fun playing in the rain instead. Or this could mean that, I have an opportunity to change the venue and maybe find something even better. Right? So it just depends on how you're looking at it. And then that's going to determine how you respond to it. If you look at it as something, okay, this is solvable. I can find a solution to this. I can find a company that sells tents so that, I can cover people up, or I can find another venue to change this to, or I can hand out umbrellas and just, have people look at it in a fun way. Right? So change the meaning and you will change the emotion. And then with a higher frequency emotion, you're going to think of solutions. You're not going to stay stuck in that freeze mode or the denial or the running away or just going into anger, shame, blame, etc. So when you change your emotion, you're changing the frequency of how you are feeling, how you're resonating, and you begin to tune in to the positive frequency on this side. When you're thinking about and experiencing a negative emotion, you're tuned into lower frequencies, which will bring you in this direction. When you go into a good feeling, it brings you the opposite direction. So this is good. How is this good? How is this good? How is this good? How can this be helpful for me? What benefit is in this for me? What opportunities are in this? No matter what comes up, continually going to this is good, this is good. There has to be something good in this. There has to be a solution to this. The law of polarity cannot be denied. No matter what's going on in your situation, you are not an exception to this law. Your situation is not an exception to this law. Okay, so keep going to this is good, what's good in this? Go into gratitude. I'm grateful for this experience. I'm grateful for this lesson. I'm grateful for this this thing that's coming up for me because it's helping me to flex my muscle. It's helping me to see things differently. It's helping me to expand my horizon. But you can't expand if you're in the negative emotional state. And if you're in fear, remember that tunnel vision happens. You can't see what's there in front of you. How many times have you been looking for something because you were rushed or you were stressed and you were looking and looking and looking and you just couldn't find it, and somebody else who wasn't stressed saw it and pointed it out, and it goes right there in front of you. Anybody ever had that happen? Where you go back and look at something and you're like, I could have sworn I looked there before and I didn't see it. Right? So type in the chat box. That's never happened to you. Right. Why? Because stress was narrowing your vision. There's something called a blind spot or scotoma. Physically happens where we don't see it. The brain creates a blind spot. Right? But if you go into gratitude, if you go into a state of hope, possibility, certainty that there is a solution, there is a possibility, there is something good in the situation, it releases that stress response. It releases the tunnel vision and the blinders that you have on so you can see the options or the choices that were there all along, hidden from view. Because you choose to tune into a different frequency. You choose to tune into the positive frequency. You choose to tune into the positive emotional frequency, for example, of gratitude. Okay? Now I had an example of this because, again, what I told you at the beginning, I'm utilizing all these tools as well. These are the tools that I teach my clients. These are the tools that I use for myself. And sometimes I forget those rules, right? And I start to go down that wrong path, right? And this is a problem. This is a problem. What's happening here? This isn't fair, etc. Then I got to remind myself, okay? Every time I'm going down that path, I got to remind myself, no, gratitude. This is good. There's a solution. There's a solution. So I've been doing gratitude every morning, starting off my day with gratitude every morning, gratitude meditation, or listing the things that I'm grateful for. It's a guarantee you can always find things that you can be grateful for. Grateful right now for technology, right? If this were happening 40 years ago, we'd be even more cut off from each other. Feeling even more lonely, even more isolated, even more unresourceful, okay? So technology is great right now. Thankful for that. Thankful for a roof over my head. Right now, in this present moment, I am protected. So I've been doing gratitude. Last week, I have had my accountant working on my taxes. And I said, I'm going to have a good result. I'm going to have a good result. Right? I had a good year. 2019 was another growth year for me. And, you know, I was making my payments. I was upping my estimated payments. Wasn't quite sure if I was doing it enough, but, you know, I was doing what it seemed was going to be enough. Well, I got a call from my accountant. She finished my taxes. I did owe a little bit, I think 125 or 175 to the state, but I got about $3,600 back from federal. Gratitude, right? It was there all along. It was just waiting to be seen, to be discovered. Okay. So gratitude for that. I got out of my car, saw a quarter on the ground. Oh, the universe is telling me money is here for me. Money is here. Here's some money, right? Don't say, oh, it's only a quarter. No, that's a sign. That's a sign. Prosperity is there and it's coming to me. I've had numerous other things happen, downloads of ideas of how to pivot my business, what to focus on, how to reach people. And then, you know, systematically going through things and looking for what to take action on. Okay. So you guys all with me right now, understanding this? Just go ahead and type in the chat. Okay. So see the opportunity, go into gratitude. How can you begin to unlock your brain, change your focus, and clear the lenses? So we're a little bit past time right now. I'm just going to briefly kind of mention some of these things here, but that call that I'm doing on Thursday, 9 to 9:30, or I'll go longer. I'll go as long as I need to. for questions and to cover some of these different resources. So the first thing is do some quick stress reduction, right? To unlock your brain when something happens and you're saying this is bad, or you're going into fear, you're projecting in a negative way. You know, this is going to lead to this, and it's going to lead to that, and I'm going to be homeless, and you know, you're going into the catastrophic thinking. That you're self-centered. Do a quick stress reduction process. Stop the fight or flight happening back here and activate this area of the brain. Physically, you begin to activate this area of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is where logic, reason, problem solving, creativity all stem from. It all gets generated from this area of the brain. But when you're in fight or flight, when you're in fear, this area of the brain is dominant. And this area of the brain is trying to go back to the past known experiences, trying to find patterns, or again, it shuts down and gets stuck. Okay? So activate this part. Quick stress reduction, get in the present. The future hasn't happened yet. Future has not happened. It's just a fantasy in your head. It's a make-believe story you're creating. Get into the present, what is real right here, right now. And what do you have right here, right now? Not what I don't have, I don't have what I want or what I need. What do I have right now? Get in the present, breathe, focus on your breath, move into your breath. Your breath begins to calm the fight or flight mechanism. Take deep breaths. So everybody do that with me right now. Just take a nice deep breath. Do at least 3 nice, deep, centering breaths. Get present in this moment. Stop thinking about the future. Stop thinking about the past. Get in this moment with your breath. Ground yourself. What's true? What's fact right here, right now? Okay. The fact might be you don't have as much income coming in, from the past few days or week that matches the expenses that you had. That's a fact. But the meaning you give to that and then the emotion you create from that is under your control. Okay. The fact is, I need to find some way to cut expenses or create income so that I can meet my minimum needs right now. Right. And then I have to go into resourcefulness to figure out what to do with that. So I did that last weekend. I put down, my whole budget, everything, wrote it down on a piece of paper. Okay, right here. Right. And I started writing, these are the things I can cut or I can put on pause. These are the calls I'm going to make to find out, what I can put on pause if I need to right now. I'm not in that position for a lot of these things. I did cut a few things out that are extraneous. But I'm not in that position right now where I have to really, really start to take act to a lot of things. And we have these resources coming up, right? So we have resources that our government is creating for us to help to tide us over, because this is just a pause. This is not a permanent. This is a pause. And things will eventually free themselves up and we'll go back to somewhat normal. There will never be, we will never be in that same normal that we were, right? Things are going to change. But we'll be back to more of a normal and more of a sense of certainty and more of what we're able to do. But we might find that certain things that we did before, we're not going to do that anymore. We found actually a better way now because we were forced to. Constriction leads itself to creativity. Right? When we're constricted in one way, energy keeps flowing, right? We're going to find some way to release that constriction and have that energy flow in a different way. PQ reps, so that's positivity quotient. So that's another thing that I teach. PQ reps is just being very present, like feel your butt on the seat. This is a grounding technique as well. Feel your butt in the seat. Right here, right now. Get a sense of your body. Any way you can bring yourself to your body and what you're experiencing right here, right now in the present. Bringing yourself into your body, into your breath, into things that you can feel, things that are tangible and real for you right now. It grounds you. Okay, it brings you back to that centerpiece, that center point, that red line in the middle. Okay, It brings you out of the negative extreme. It brings you back to that center, that red line, where then you have the possibility of going to the right side of that line. Go into gratitude. Start every day with gratitude. Do gratitude throughout the day. Anytime fears or stress or a feeling of stuckness comes in, anytime you're feeling this is bad. Help to increase the stages of awareness upward to a sense of freedom from the constraint and the lack to achieve your ability to experience your desired goal. David Nagel is one of my mentors. I'm going to share a resource with you. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. Go and watch some of his stuff, okay? Some of what I shared with you today is from some of his teachings. You can change the meaning. I talked about that. You also have to change your belief systems. So sometimes changing the meaning is hard because you've got some really well-installed, stubborn belief systems that are preventing you from changing the meanings into a positive way. So there's a couple of techniques that I teach: the left-go occurring process, left-go belief elimination process that help with that. Do the paper flip. That's one of my other coaches, Angelique Ruers, who teaches on getting corporate engagements. Write the problem on one sheet of paper, okay, and then flip it over and say, what's the solution? Okay, problem, where's the solution? It's on the other side, I know it is, right? Here's the problem, flip the page over, what's the solution? Here's the problem, flip the page over, what's the solution? Here's the problem, what's the solution? Keep doing that until your mind begins to present some ideas. Find evidence of solutions or possibility. What are some possibilities? Find evidence how other people are pivoting and creating something better, right? It might not be exactly what they want, but it's something better than what they currently have in the stuck state. So find stories of people who are innovating, finding people who are finding solutions. It's on the news every single day. Okay, it's Inside Business is sharing those stories in every week. So whether you're getting the paper version or whether you're doing the online version, highly, highly recommend that you are subscribed to Inside Business. It's $49 for a year. But read those stories. But they are showing up on the news as well. So type in the chat box, yes, if you've seen some of those stories, how businesses are pivoting. I'll tell you how to sign up for the call at the end, and I'll actually be sending out a link, or I'll have Joey send out a link to everybody who signed up for the seminar today. If you're watching the recording, I'll give you my email address so you can email me if for some reason you're watching this recording and you're not on a list to receive an email for that. Okay, so seeing evidence. So Jody, start looking for it. You haven't seen it yet, but it's there, right? Here we go, law of polarity, it's there. It's just hidden from you right now. Start to look for it. You will always find what you are looking for, whether it's the bad or the good. If you're looking for the bad, you're gonna find it. Guarantee you're gonna find it. If you're looking for the good, guarantee you're gonna find it. Okay? Whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right. Or sorry, I guess the quote is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford. All right, so you're always going to find what you're looking for. I had an idea as I was walking my dog. I had an idea for restaurants in the area as I was walking my dog last week. And later that night, I saw something on my Facebook about a local restaurant that was doing that exact same thing that I had the idea for. The Shack, it's not necessarily a restaurant, it's a event sort of venue, and they've got an outdoor area where, sort of a party area that you can just, it's a drop-in, it's a bar, and they've got, giant Jenga and, all kinds of games and fire pits and all kinds of things like that. So they turn themselves into a grocery store. They've got all the things that they need to be a grocery store. They got the space, they got the refrigeration. They even have the suppliers, right? The suppliers for the food that they then prepared and and gave to people. So besides the takeout, they're selling beer and wine and fresh produce and fresh meats and fish. And they're helping other businesses, right, who are supplying those things. They're creating that new supply chain, or using their current supply chain in a new way, right? And then people are coming, people want to support the local businesses. How can I do that? You can go and shop there for some of those staples instead of going to the grocery store, right? So finding new ways to pivot, they are out there. And then you can talk it out with someone for a new perspective or ideas. Colleagues, a mentor, a coach, because they won't have the same blinders as you. They've had different experiences to draw upon that you don't have to draw upon. They have the skill, like with a coach, we have the skill of asking questions to help you to identify your blind spots and see beyond them, how to alter your thinking, how to shift your meaning, and begin to come up with the ideas and the solutions. All right. And then again, David Nagel's YouTube channel, I can't recommend it highly enough. And what you want to do is start with his series that he did last weekend. He did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of an hour and a half each, an hour of teaching, and then 30 minutes of Q&A on how to navigate uncertainty in a time of crisis. So some of what I've taught here today, some of the information that he was teaching there, things that I'll be teaching on the call, I'll be going more into these different things that I listed here, answering questions about them as well, so that you can start to flex this muscle. Because here's the thing, right? As you move through this situation, as you start to use these tools, as you start to free up your creative mind, humans have amazingly creative minds, right? Beyond the capability of other animals. You are flexing your muscle, right? As becoming an entrepreneur, because the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner is an entrepreneur is an idea generator, and then either on their own or finds people to help to take action on those ideas. Business owners really just, singly focus on their particular business and their way of doing things. Not all about idea generation. It's just, I've got this one thing to offer. So this is causing all of us in business to begin to flex our entrepreneur mind. This is teaching you and building your problem-solving skills forever. And you're going to continue to face challenges as a business owner. And let me tell you this, after this experience, anything else that pops up for you will seem like a piece of cake. I lived through the pandemic, right? I made it through the pandemic. My business made it through the pandemic. Maybe leaping or limping a little bit, right? Maybe it takes you a while to kind of get back to where you were before. But if you can find some way to keep it going, it's flexing this muscle. And any other challenge that comes up after this, after we're out of this experience, you're going to say, no problem. I got this. I went through that pandemic. This is going to be a piece of cake. Okay. So I'm going to end here. We're in a little bit past time. Thank you for staying with me, those of you who could. And I will stay on if anybody wants to ask a few quick questions. But remember, I have that Q&A. So I will send the slides. So Joey will take care of getting anybody who signed up for this and the slides. If you don't have the if you're not getting the email because you're watching this from some replay, then you can email me, Lisa at themindtrainingcenter.com. So it's Thursday the 2nd. This Thursday, it's starting at 9 o'clock. I'll be doing that Q&A and teaching a little bit more about some of these techniques. So my number and email is there on this slide here. Themindtrainingcenter.com is my website. 757-828-7960 is my phone number. And my email, Lisa at themindtrainingcenter.com. So I see Joey's back on.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Lisa. So I understand you're going to stay online if anybody has any questions for you.
Yes.
All right, and everybody else, thank you for coming to our webinar.
Okay, so stay for a moment. Try to block out the negative comments and posts on social media. Yeah, absolutely, Tina. I have some people on my page trying to get adversarial or just posting things that are cynical or judgmental, and I'm having to say, if you can't post anything that's inspiring, helpful, supportive, then don't post on my page. It's going to get deleted, or if you keep doing it, I'm just going to have to unfriend you, because right now, we all have to be in control of our environment, right? What we're letting in. We're letting in the negativity, the naysayers, the people who are like the crabs in the bucket trying to drag you down. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Not for me. Don't let it be for you. Okay. Any questions here before we end? I see a bunch of thank yous. Thank you. Okay, awesome. So take this information and use it. Otherwise, it's useless trivia and it's not going to help you at all. All right. God bless everybody. And I hope to see you on the Q&A, and to be there to support you, guide you, and answer any questions that you have about using these principles to help you with your business. Bye.